I want to know why
Well, I just don't
In-
have enough
in-
faith in people to actually be able to do that.
Right. So,
In
so
addition
many,
to that-
so many people, right, have said this, like, oh, people, I don't have faith in them. They won't change. They won't do anything. While they're literally the person they're talking about. I get sick of
Yeah,
people
that's
not
why I
changing.
understand it.
Yeah, but that's why not stop being that person? If you don't have faith in people because they just disappoint and they won't make the change, why are you one of them?
Yo.
Hello.
What's up?
You have
Hello.
You have the privilege of debating Ellie now, because I'm gonna
Wow.
make some tea.
Wow, you should be thankful. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Hell
Hello.
yeah.
Thank you for waiting so
Hi.
patiently.
No, it's fine. I was just about to go to fucking bed, but now I'm here, so it's good.
Lovely.
Yeah. You kind of drifted off topic a bit there with the last few people I
Mhm.
noticed, but I'm here to bring you back on track.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, let me just start this
Yeah.
time. So I think that you are kind of right with the whole thing that the average non-vegetarian person does obviously pay for animal abuse to a certain extent. But I think Levi, I don't fucking know. That guy, he was going on about like these farms for a bit that actually do kill their animals in humane ways, or I think that's what he was trying to express. And yeah, though while that isn't a large chunk of the population, I think that's the best way to honestly live. That's a way where you aren't supporting animal abuse, since you can just find a local butcher, ask them for their sources, and figure out, okay, so are these animals being killed in a humane way, a way that that I'm okay with. And through that, you don't have an issue with anything, and you don't need to have any like concerns with your diet and stuff.
Right, let's tackle that. So when we're talking about abuse, we're talking about, violent treatment or cruel treatment towards a human or an animal. So I think it's inherently cruel to take away someone's life and exploit them, without their consent, which you cannot garner from an animal. How do you navigate that?
Would you mind rephrasing? You mean like,
Oh, sorry.
are
Yeah,
you trying to express that they're still being abused by just simply being kept in farms? Or
So they're
what are you
being
trying to say?
abused by being brought into existence with the purpose of being exploited, so used for our, benefit, and then they're going to be killed. I would say it's abusive, like, to kill somebody. I know abuse, as we see it in the term of kind of like it's this prolonged kind of experience, but abuse can also just mean cruel or violent treatment to somebody, which I think it's inherently violent to take away someone's life away from them. And yeah, to exploit them is abusive. So we're talking about different levels of abuse that are happening to these animals. So I don't know how we can get away from it being abusive. And after we've kind of gone through that, maybe we could talk about how you humanely kill these animals.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. I mean, I have a few other things
Yeah.
I'd like to discuss as well, but yeah,
If we can
I
go through
think
this bit,
you are definitely right. If you view it like that, and you see, yes, bringing something onto this earth just for it to die for our needs, yeah, that fucking sucks. I wouldn't want that to happen to like any human, obviously. So why would you want it to happen to another living being? The
or
thing
sentient
is,
being, because I don't mind if it
yeah,
happens to a plant. They're not a subject, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, uh, if look, I agree with that. I'm a vegetarian, but the thing is, fucking like, you have to be realistic about this. You can't imagine that a majority of the world is ever gonna be able to become a vegan or even vegetarian. That's just not gonna be happening anytime soon, if even.
I don't
I
know.
think,
Sorry to
I
cut
think,
in, but
yeah.
we don't look at anything else in this context. We could look at back, we could have talked thousands of years ago. I don't think it's kind of fair to just assume that, people just won't be mainly like murdering people, or I don't think it would be fair to assume, oh, that we should give women the right to vote, that wasn't even long ago. Like, just to think of morals and what we ought do based upon, will this actually happen? That's kind of a weird way to frame it.
Yeah, but it's a habit that has been going on for such a long time. And if these people with all this support, I mean, we're living a like time where it's easier than ever to become vegetarian or vegan or whatever the fuck you want to do. And if people right now aren't able to, in first world countries, aren't like mentally able to pass through a barrier and just say fuck it, I'm a do this and go through with it, then why you kind of need to move around that, like think, okay, how could we make this better for the animals? Because you said yourself, we don't expect for all animals to just like fuck, I forgot what you said, excuse me. You said like you don't expect for it to reach everyone everywhere, and like for all animals to be like safe, you know? So why not just make it so that the way these animals are, kept and eventually slaughtered is okay, and is in a way where where it's like instant for them.
Okay, so let me just kind of clarify. So, when people talk to me about this, they kind of come from this kind of idea of like, oh, I know what happens and it's terrible. But the rest of the world, like, they haven't got the mental, like, I guess, fortitude, you'd say, like, to just say, fuck it, I'll do it. I'll make this change. So you're kind of talking about other people and what they would do. What I'm interested in is why you aren't vegan and you're just vegetarian. Is it just because this kind of like the appeal to popularity of like, well, I'm waiting for other people to do it? Is that what it is?
No, it's the opposite. Vegans are fucking annoying.
I mean, yeah,
Like,
but
sorry, man, but
like,
they make like, come on,
oh
dude,
wait,
you have a
hang on,
YouTube channel.
hang on,
Yeah, it's not
no
to be mean,
way,
but your personality is like the whole vegan thing,
yeah.
dude. Imagine going out in real life, talking to a person that is vegan, like fucking hell. That I do not give a shit if you were vegan.
Wait,
It's the
hang
fact that they
on.
have to bring it up.
So
And
wait,
did you
hang,
want to
hang,
be
hang on,
part of a
hang on, hang
group
on, hang on,
like that?
listen to me. So wait, you're paying for rights violations of other animals because you're annoyed by a group of humans.
No, I'm saying that's no, no,
Why
no,
you
no.
won't go vegan?
No, not at all. I'm
Okay, I
vegetarian. I'm
asked
not.
you. Okay, so let's just keep it on track, please, because I'm gonna get
All right.
frustrated. I've asked you, like, and we don't need the character attacks or anything like that. It's in fair enough if you think
Sorry,
I'm
I didn't mean
annoying.
to attack you. I
Well,
was using you
I'm
as an
vegan
example.
gays is in my name, my G. Like, what do you expect? Like, look, come on, let's be real.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
But we'll not do that. And I asked you why you're not vegan, and then you went on about vegans being annoying, and then I'm saying, oh, okay, well, is that why you won't go vegan, because vegans are annoying? And then you went, no. So
No,
what's
you
the
didn't say that.
answer?
You said, is that why you're fine with animals being like brutally fucking
No,
murdered?
I know what I said, and it's being streamed, so like I make a point to like remember what I've said. I'm sure I asked you why you're not vegan and you're vegetarian.
No, okay. So
I'll look back,
let's
but
start
yeah,
again.
yeah, absolutely. So why are
I
you not vegan and vegetarian instead?
I am not vegan because I do not want to be part of a group like that. I also do not want animals to die and fucking suffer.
So the vegans being annoying is the reason why you pay for rights
That is the
violations of
reason
other
I'm not
animals.
I'm not a
Well,
vegan.
why can't you just
Yes.
not? Why can't you just do what vegans do and not say you're vegan?
Because I'm fine with being vegetarian.
But you just said you're
Because
not
animals
fine.
do because I do not eat, I just don't eat animals.
Well,
That's it.
you pay for rights violations of animals. Like the dairy industry is the beef industry. The egg industry, half of the animals who are born for that industry are killed. The dairy industry, the veal cows are killed. The dairy cows are killed. It's entailed in the industry that these animals will be bred into existence and killed. It's the same process. It's just not their flesh. So this is a problem, isn't it? Because you said, oh, I don't want animals to be killed. You're paying for them to be killed. And this is why we are annoying, as you said earlier, because people are, they're giving these kind of I don't want to, when we're talking about animals literally being killed. Like, this is really important, as annoying as it might be. But as a vegetarian, you're still paying into those industries. And arguably, one of the worst, I'd say, the dairy industry. I don't know if you were present when I was telling the person about what happens in that industry.
No, but I've informed myself about it in general. I do understand what you're on about. The thing is, if people, like, we can get back to this. If people aren't able to even become vegetarian, which,
They are.
is easier, you still have a wider variety of foods you're used to when you're vegetarian. Uh, so it's easier to, like, transition and stuff. How do you expect people to become vegan
So it's a
if they
mixture
can't
of
even do that?
things. It's we are, as much as we don't like to admit it, we are followers. We like, being part of a social group and doing the same things as them. So that's why it'll probably follow an innovation curve. And as well, it's the lack of education. You literally said yourself, "Oh, I'm a vegetarian and I don't want animals to be killed," and they're not being killed for me being a vegetarian, but they are. So you, as a vegetarian, and you say you've informed yourself of the dairy industry, you don't even know about that kind of process behind it. And, when we outreach to people and go out and be annoying vegans, a lot of people they have no idea. They don't know what's happening. So, it's the mixture of information and cultural social change. As soon as something's a social norm, people are comfortable to do it without even questioning it. That's with everything. Yeah. So those things will change, and we could sit here all day and be like, "Oh, it's not going to change." I bet my entire soul that there will be a world that is largely plant-based. It will have to happen. I don't know if I think the ethics will follow the plant-based. And I think we will look back and think, "Oh my God, why was that even something that people, tried to justify?" I do think that's just an inevitability, because it just follows logically from human rights.
Yeah. No, sorry, to get back on track. No, the thing is, I, what was I gonna respond with? Sorry, you kind of went on there for a
Well,
while.
sorry, I kept on topic.
It's fine, man, it's fine. No, I'm just trying to minimize it. That's what I was gonna say. I think, for me at least, it, speaking for most people I know, it is very hard to minimize dairy intake. That stuff is in so many products you consume on a day-to-day basis. I I think, for me personally, it is too hard.
So there are so many
I'm not
products that
ready for that.
have, yeah, but right, we've got to put it into context. I understand that people might not be ready to do certain things, but when we're talking about rights violations that you're fully aware of, there's an urgency there. Like you said, you wouldn't want humans to be in this position, and you don't want animals being killed, but you are directly paying for it as a result of these products. And there is an abundance of vegan foods, dairy-free options. Like, do you live in Ireland?
No, I live in Germany.
You do live in
In
Germany.
Germany.
Sorry, you sound like you have an Irish accent. That's my bad.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Alright.
I know. Yeah. No. Yeah. So apparently Germany's a really good place for vegan options. And yeah, I think it's something that's accessible and cheap. Especially in like the UK. I can speak for. I don't know if Ansgar's back.
I'm back.
Yeah, the accessibility of vegan products, dairy-free products in Germany.
Well, I think it depends on the city you're in. So if you're in Berlin, it's basically vegan heaven. But despite that, I think the accessibility shouldn't really matter in most countries and places on Earth. If you think about it, because what we're essentially saying, even if it's something that concerns a like deep habit or a hard to transition situation, I think we still have to contrast our ability to change our habits as a kind of an effort to what is really happening and what we are paying for. And if we're paying for this forced impregnation and taking children away from their mothers, I just think that having a habit or really enjoying a certain kind of food product just doesn't cut the edge of kind of justifying to continue, even if it's hard for oneself. I think we should keep ourselves to higher moral standards than just arguing by habit in this particular situation.
Do you think there is
Yeah.
because you spoke before about humans, you wouldn't want them
Yeah.
killed. You seem to, and I also categorize other animals differently, but you seem to categorize them very differently, in the sense that it seems like it could be justified to exploit these animals. Is there a difference that means it is justified to exploit them where it wouldn't be for a human?
Mm, right, how to explain this? Um, it's not really about how they're being exploited. I mean, humans get exploited as well,
Yeah.
in many different ways. It's just different. It's more about how they get exploited, and in what quantities.
So
Um,
what like exploitation do we with animal agriculture do we engage in that you think, oh yeah, that is acceptable for another animal, but if that were a human, then no.
I think if we do it in small quantities for eggs, chickens, I think if a human had a baby or even failed to have a baby, that'd be like fucked up if you like forced them to do that. But if you do it and take an egg, which doesn't have a chicken in it, and you don't do it in a mass production sense, I think that's completely fine. I mean, is it okay for a vegan to own chickens, and whenever they lay an egg, you take it and eat it?
Yeah, that wouldn't be vegan. People,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, and I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, so
Um,
there are multiple problems when we see that's because when we look at the chickens we've bred to lay eggs, they are laying a larger amount than they would have naturally. I think it's like 10 times the amount or something like that. One basically every single day when it's not the equivalent of a period because it's a different reproductive system, but it's similar in that there's a lot of nutrients within that egg for that they are then leaching out of their body that can lead to like anemia and calcium problems for the hens and fatigue. And yeah, so something that people do typically if they are rescuing these hens is they feed them back to them so that they can gain the nutrients back. But yeah, the way that we've bred them today, like it's something it causes a problem for them. Like it's like just breeding into existence animals who are just gonna feel constantly fatigued and have problems. I forget what it's called, but the eggs can get stuck in the tract because of how many they produce and cause them medical problems. We've not, because of selective breeding, the animals we see today, they're not healthy, they're not really in the best condition. So that would be a problem. And what do you do with them when they don't lay eggs anymore? Typically, they'll be killed. So
um, uh, when like one thing I want to add to this is um, even if you feed the eggs back to the to the chicken, you could probably also feed them back something nutritionally equivalent, and well, by that standard, not be vegan, but well, not contribute to that kind of suffering that this animal goes through. But we also got to ask the question: do we really want to continue breeding sentient beings into existence that have a merit of physiological problems um, attached to their being? And it's also a lot about the practicability when it comes to the future of these chicken, because um, of course we could have a world in which we, strictly speaking, wouldn't selectively breed these animals to be like produce more eggs, but it's very impractical and very unlikely that the human species like won't come back to the urge of increasing the production of eggs through one chicken. It's also probably not really economically viable to have a a kind of primordial gallus species that just lays an egg every month and is totally healthy, and humans not exploiting or breeding this animal to produce more eggs than it can, and therefore, as a consequence, be unhealthy. So I think even if it is a hypothetical that could become a reality, it's just so unlikely that the benefits are just too unlikely to attain. And even then, we would probably, and from the animal rights perspective, might run into issues which I am on the other side than vegan gays probably. But I probably wouldn't care that much if it really was the case, but I just see it as very impractical if you understand where I'm coming from.
Sorry. You were talking about Wait. Could you did you ask me a question? Sorry, I kind of lost track a bit there.
Um, so I was just arguing that it's very impractical to have like backyard hens that don't really experience severe suffering through the way they're bred. So keeping them in existence,
Oh, you're
and
saying that is just in general suffering. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's where actually I didn't know if you like asked a question or something. Yeah,
yeah,
I actually wanted to say something about that. I mean, the chicken's gonna lay the egg no matter what, no matter if you buy it or not.
yeah,
Sure,
but the
you can
chicken
argue
will
if it's
keep on
part of
it.
what I'm talking about. It's not even vegan if you own a couple of chickens and have their eggs. The chickens live. The chickens that you bought exist. They're not gonna suddenly disappear if you don't get them. And if
Well,
they
well,
are,
in the long term.
Hmm.
That's
They're bred
the
into
thing. That's
existence
the
for that purpose.
yeah. So if you stop supporting that and stop paying for that, then the industry doesn't have an incentive to bring them into existence after the 8 years that they served in misery. So it's I don't think, of course, from a direct causal standpoint, you could say that this chicken is just already there, so why not use it? But if we think about economic systems and how humanity works and how generally things come into existence through our purchasing power, nothing happens in an instance. It's usually set back by a few years, but these years matter because that's presumably hundreds of years where you could have suffering chicken or not have suffering chicken. If you now go ahead and rescue chickens from a particular farm and well, treat them as well as you could and feed them nutritionally adequate supplements to supplement for their loss of nutrients through laying eggs and then eating the eggs, then I personally wouldn't have an issue. But up to the point uh, where you don't pay for the industry or kill them prematurely or keep on breeding them into existence. But I just don't think that you're in a state in life where you own backyard chicken that you rescued from a factory farm that you won't be um, kind of breeding for future purposes. I just think that's highly unlikely. So you're probably eating just some standard eggs from any chicken industry.
Yeah, that's what's important. Like, because we're talking about you again, it's all good looking at these kind of fringe cases and seeing how far we can take it. But that's, those aren't the eggs you're consuming. The dairy you're consuming isn't, as Ansgar said, it's coming from conditions we've explained differently. The standard, not these instances.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I get where you're coming from. I do understand what you are saying. I understand that. I understand now that you just see in general supporting it as buying products as like supporting the whole pain, and I do the whole like issue, and yeah, obviously that makes sense. I think though that yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna end it after this because I have one more thing I want to say and then dip.
Sure.
Um, I think though that that just in general, people there are ways where it is possible for people to sort of minimize all of this, their support towards this entire industry. Like this with the chickens and stuff is just like an example. But you could support the industry every other week, every week even, by buying eggs, or you could completely minimize it, uh, buy some chickens from a farm and just exist with that. You know
Well,
what I
you
mean?
wouldn't
Or you could,
minimize
or
it.
no.
It is minimization. You don't need to go back every week. You buy it
Why
once.
go through all that problem when you can just like eat vegan? You can eat vegan alternatives. I don't understand why you'd go through all this trouble of like, how can I exploit you in the least way possible? Like when we could just take them out of the picture, they're not part of it at all. We don't have to. The fact that we have to kind of, really like weave ourselves around and try and find like the way that we can do it the best way. We shouldn't be looking at that when it's the alternative that we have. Oh, vegan. Oh, we don't need to involve them at all. Not a problem. No rights
Because
violations.
I think that it's impossible for the majority of humans to just go vegan like that. I think the future is that the best future for us would be, sure, yeah, veganism. But the most realistic best future for us would be if it was completely minimized. Imagine all the problems we wouldn't have. It was just minimized for every person, and no person would really experience anything different. They could still
Okay.
eat the
But
foods they like. They
there's small
could still
variation.
exist the way they want to.
Yeah, there's more variation of
It's
plant foods though than there are like people eat a select few animals, chickens, cows, pigs typically, and then they'll eat dairy and eggs. But we're talking about like loads of different plant foods, and you're saying, oh, okay, well, it's not really possible so much for
I'm saying that
people.
people aren't going to change, yeah.
Well, they absolutely
um
are going to change. If we look at any point in history, like go back 50 years, 30 years, like 100 years, the world constantly looks different in some way. There's still some bad things happening, but yeah, it's going to get hit. But it's constantly slowed down by people with this attitude of like, well, things aren't going to change, so I'm not going to really do very like as much as I could. Like that's what slows it down because there's more people
um
doing that.
No, I
in
don't
addition
doubt it's going to change. I'm saying it's going to change differently. People have
in
always
addition to
said
that,
that it would change drastically differently. People have always predicted the future completely wrong.
regardless of these issues you raised, we also got to think about like you're making an appeal to effectiveness or to practicality, which is a valid thing to bring up in general. But I don't think, in any sense, that it would minimize suffering when we just like start buying backyard chickens from a farmer, because you then perpetuate the system of having these hens that are genetically modified, and probably people are very likely to kill them off once they don't lay eggs. It's very hard to regulate and to kind of reduce the animal suffering. And despite animal suffering being the biggest part of veganism, there are also several other issues of pandemic risks and climate change and antibiotic resistance that we have to watch out for. And we, in addition to having the problem of minimal animal suffering in the case of the hens, we add these kinds of suffering, these potential sufferings, to the picture, which we shouldn't try advocating for. I think because we have these problems, and these are big problems, and it's not gonna be better if every U.S. American or German starts having backyard hens. It will create significant problems in terms of pandemic risks or even climate change. And I don't really think it's more realistic that people start buying backyard hens instead of buying factory farmed chicken eggs, like everyone having backyard hens. It just seems very unlikely to me, even more so than the world going vegan. And people are getting more open towards veganism,
Sorry
and
to disturb, but
yeah,
the whole backyard hens thing was just like an example for how it is possible to minimize it. Obviously,
yeah,
if we were
but you're
to predict the
arguing
future in a sort of realistic sense, the most probable and
Right.
best way would be if communities obviously had this stuff, small cities, towns even, and just as long as you're not supporting the industry, you're not
it
supporting the
isn't
suffering.
better.
Right.
It isn't the best.
Hang on. I just want to test this, okay? So, say for example, there's a person and they are really violent towards their dog. Constantly, every single day, they will beat their dog just horribly. What would you say to them? Would you say, mate, stop doing that? Or would you say, mate, do you think maybe you could just kind of give them lighter smacks twice a week? Which one would you pick?
I think that question is not very
Analogous?
fitting for this,
Well,
really.
I'll
Because
explain how, because we're looking at like rights violations, exploitation, and whatnot. But so in this kind of
imagine,
instance, you're still going to be, using them, exploiting them, doing something that's, for your own interest in this instance. So it's still analogous.
I think a better example would be where the person has an animal that they have for over multiple generations, genetically like completely fucked, so that they're in constant pain and agony.
Like a pug.
Would you just, sorry?
Like a pug. You can't have a healthy pug.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a good example. Yeah. Imagine a person has a pug. Now would you tell them, fucking stop having that pug, or would you tell them, mate, just don't buy a pug again, try at least to buy a different dog?
I'd say like rescue the pug, never buy the pug, and stop breeding them into existence, which is exactly what I'd say for these hens.
Yeah, that's minimization though. The person isn't completely
Yeah, but you're
stopping
talking
getting
about
with the whole pug
you're,
thing.
you're talking about one generation where in this instance this situation you're talking about could only happen for the next 2 years. So you could rescue a hen right now and be like, okay, I'll look after you and whatever. But then the idea when we're minimizing them and because we're looking to what the world ought be like, you're talking about this kind of world where we still have backyard hens. But if we're using
Jesus
the
Christ, with the fucking backyard hens, man.
well, you're the
I
one who
think
brought them up, right? So what's the
Yeah, after you asked me for something where I'd draw the line for humans, but I'd still be okay with it for animals.
I mean
But
the point is even if it's not about backyard hens or just being about milking cows,
yeah.
the essential of the argument is that for the pug case, you're saying, okay, we're gonna rescue this pug, not keep on breeding pugs that
Yeah.
are like fucked for life. And what you're saying, in any case, if you take like milking cows or supporting backyard hens, I'm sorry, is that you say, okay, that's the you believe that that's the minimization. Let's just keep the system, but on a more local level. When in actuality, the best thing would be just stop breeding them into existence. Maybe adopt a backyard hen, eat some eggs for the generation of hens that are in your that you own, and afterwards just don't fucking breed these fucked animals into
yeah,
existence, and then you
I
would get rid of a problem.
I'm sorry, maybe you don't quite understand what I mean. I'm saying that if you have this on a smaller scale and you're not supporting this giant industry that is the cause of this
So
issue,
the question
I'm
is,
saying
are
that
you
then eventually, after a while, if you just completely have these normal animals that haven't been fucked with, and you have that everywhere, and you replace this industry, the issue is basically solved. You don't need people to change their
No.
ways.
No,
You just
you're just creating the
No.
industry all over again.
Yeah,
and then you're going to
it's
bring it back up, and yeah, you're still exploiting them.
yeah.
How are you really realistically, like, do you know how expensive it would be if we had these kind of hens you're talking about, where they naturally, that they only lay
Jesus Christ,
a
what the
handful
fuck?
of eggs in a year, only a handful of eggs in a year, and you're just going to look after them in the hopes that you eat those few eggs every year. Well, this world we're talking about, like, one, it doesn't really make sense. It wouldn't be viable. Like, only a few people would do it. And two, that is not the eggs you currently pay for, is it?
Yeah. No, I mean you're saying, yeah, it's unrealistic and impossible for small communities to get together and, to just stop the industry and create smaller branches, smaller, things, whatever the fuck. No, but if you can't even, get one person in this voice chat right now to, become vegetarian, how do you imagine this going on a larger scale? How do you imagine?
There's multiple people going vegan right now. There's someone who came in, the first person we spoke to said thank you to Ansgar and other people for speaking to them and changing their mind. That you're kind of making an excuse on other people's inability to take accountability, and that's very bizarre to me. I want to know why
Well, I just don't have
In
enough
in
faith in people to actually be able to do that.
Right,
in addition to that,
so many people, right, have said this, like, oh, people, I don't have faith in them, they won't change, they won't do anything, while they're literally the person they're talking about. I get sick of
Yeah,
people
that's why
not
I
changing.
understand it.
Yeah, but that's why not stop being that person? If you don't have faith in people because they just disappoint and they won't make the change, why are you one of them? Like, the first thing you should do, if we're going to complain about, oh, people just won't move, they won't make the change, you have to be the first person who put your foot forward. Otherwise, there's no point whinging about it. There's no point coming onto a chat to go, I won't go vegan because other people won't, because I can't have faith in them. They won't change. They won't change. Why don't you?
I mean, the point is, like, and I won't take this as a comparison of like putting animals and humans on the same level. I know people hate this, but imagine you being a person during the 18th century saying, "Oh yeah, like slavery is shit, I know, but well, everyone is doing this, and no one will change, or just a few people will change, and this gives me justification to just keep on doing it anyway." I just don't see how we should continue with this kind of thinking if this just leads to abhorrent situations in our human history. And this also applies to animals, since they're also sentient beings. And about the question about, like, oh yeah, nobody's going vegan, or just such a few people.
I just
I
want to
think it's
know,
kind of
the person that we spoke to literally before is in my chat talking about how they're going to change, by the way. So carry on.
Um, and
Example.
the second bit is kind of a middle ground thing, I think, about veganism and advocating for veganism. If you tell somebody, oh yeah, vegetarian is the thing, and you should go vegetarian, and try to convince them to go vegetarian, they might do a flexitarian diet usually. Like they say, like, oh yeah, but it's a bit difficult, and I get the arguments. People usually tend to not go all the way in any case, or any argument that you put forward, even if the argument is strong. But if you tell them, oh, maybe you should go vegan, and that's a good idea, and here are the reasons why, the thousand reasons why, they might go vegetarian instead of flexitarian, unless you're a pretty shitty vegan who just like trashes people and like just kind of degrades them for not being vegan. And of course, like I usually tend to tell people, okay, like just be aware that veganism is really the way to go, and that's like the best scenario, and that's the thing you should be aiming for if you really want to be consistent and want us to create a better world. But take your steps to go there, and I will help you out. And if you're vegetarian in the first week, I wouldn't shame you, but I would try to encourage you to go vegan. And as long as you taking the steps necessary and put in your effort, and put in the effort that you owe these animals, I'm somewhere happy. And I think in this case, most people will be able to go vegan anyway. And I think there's no reason why we should advocate for vegetarianism if this is an inconsistent position to take. And yeah, just like kind of just take the middle ground. I just it doesn't feel right on an emotional level, which should be irrelevant, but yeah, but that just comes to my personal perspective on these things.
That makes a lot more sense. Yeah, what you just said, that kind of got me thinking. Yeah, I guess people, if you do, if you see the middle ground between all this as just being vegetarian, if you advocate for something that's like way harder for them, they'll kind of start at a higher level and then work
Right.
their way up from there. Yeah, that is fine. And with stuff like that, yes, that
See, it's about the Overton like in politics. There's a thing called Overton Window, and it's just about the normalization of ideas. And the thing is, the more people advocate for, I don't know, a more leftist position or a more right position, if loads of people do it, even if it's extreme, this mass of people will shift the general perspective of the population for what is the middle ground. So if we take the situation in the US right now, they are pulling the Overton window to QAnon conspiracy theories to be more acceptable and normal. And I think the same goes just for veganism. And of course, we have to advocate better and like not scream at people for eating meat. I think it's just impractical. But yeah, that's I think it's just the most effective way to save most animals. And of course, we won't get everyone, but our goal is just to make the best we can, and that won't happen if we advocate for vegetarianism. This position is just too weak to hold and too inconsistent to hold, and there's so much things you can be caught up on if you're advocating for vegetarianism.
that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. That really got me thinking. If you put it like that, then the whole point of the whole like vegan extreme thing that I mentioned earlier, where vegans are just shit people to be around usually most of the time, some of the time. Not to
Most
be
of the
like
time.
mean or anything. But yeah, that I can understand that. Maybe I don't quite agree with the way they're doing it, but I
I mean,
guess
not
if
all vegans are the same, right?
Yeah, no, we're
yeah,
not
the majority
monoliths.
of maybe it's vegans that I've talked to, but
Yeah, we don't want to go down the
yeah.
route of thinking, oh, this group is all this, like other
Yeah,
people.
maybe
Yeah.
I think the general idea behind vegans, that like that people have about vegans is kind of similar to what I've mentioned though.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely. But it doesn't
so
reflect,
there is
like,
something
yeah.
behind that, but yeah, yeah,
Well,
that does make
just,
quite a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you for that.
I mean,
What
if you
yeah.
start, like maybe you're inspired, I don't know, but probably not, but if you're inspired to take your steps and go vegan or even label yourself as a vegan in the future, you can be part of those vegans who change the perception of us as a community.
yeah.
Like you can be part of these people who are more agreeable and um, the vegan PR was our biggest problem in the last, I don't know, 70 years, but it's getting better. Like there are these Earthling Eds and Alex O'Connor's, and it's just we're getting better at advocating. And there were always people in history who were at the start so radical that you couldn't agree with them. And yeah, it's just about human psychology, and we need people like you who try to make vegans look good and be like properly communicating things to get as many people to stop supporting these industries.
Yeah, we have like vegan meme lords, we have, edgy vegans, we have dickhead vegans, we have all sorts of people. Like, vegans, it's one of those things, like, loads of people consider animals. Like, and yeah, you're going to meet some right ding dongs, but you also meet some really cool people. And yeah, other people shouldn't get in the way of you doing the right thing, ever. Never, ever.
Oh, that's very nice. Yeah, thank you for this. One more thing before I head out. And score? Sorry. answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were talking with a guy earlier about how fucking like Jesus or something. Like how every Christian
All right.
should be a vegetarian and stuff. I
Yeah.
one that made me like think of one thing. That doesn't make sense. The whole the biggest guy basically behind Christianity, fucking Jesus. In the Bible, he eats a fish, and
Like,
I don't know, man.
If you'd like
it,
to talk to that
many
person,
people would view him in their as Christians as
yeah.
the guy you should sort of
Yep.
see as an example for the
Right.
model Christian.
if you would like to
You
talk
know.
to
So
that person, that was perspective philosophy. I can refer you to him if you'd like, and you can talk to him about it.
Oh yeah.
yeah, think you should talk to him in person.
Yeah.
I actually do very similar belief that Christianity kind of necessitates
Same.
being vegan, but for another reason than Jesus. And it has more to do with the Garden of Eden and itself excluding animal suffering as a function of its being. And of course, with the Garden of being the personification of the will of God and what is truly good, and kind of through the sin of Adam and Eve, animal suffering entering the world, I think that kind of shows through the Christian perspective that animal suffering is part of the evil that entered the world and something that you should avoid as Christian. Of course, you have things like repentance, but as anything in Christian thought, belief without works is dead, as people famously quote. And I think it's very important to recognize that the way the Garden of Eden has been set up should inform what decisions to take and how to treat others, and especially animals in this regard, because Adam and Eve were vegetarians or vegans essentially. And yeah, the same goes for Islam. So that's my reason, I think, why people as Christians should aim for being vegan, and also people from the Muslim faith, even if Jesus ate a fish. But I think that's somewhat irrelevant because of the cultural context as well.
I think I I kind of agree with what you're saying with like how Christians and Muslims should, you know, be technically all be vegetarian or vegan. So, but I only agree with that because I think all religions basically aim towards the same thing. They just have different ways of promoting that and different ways of getting people into that,
Uh,
making them understand.
I
I think the
mean,
clearest
I
one with all of
disagree,
this
but
is Buddhism, and because it's I remember reading some stuff about it and looking into it, and it's pretty clear there that you should very much try to avoid that. I just think
yeah,
that uh, it really depends on the I mean, I guess it really depends on how you view the Bible to that determines if you know really see if you really like think that all Christians should be vegetarian
yeah.
because yeah, it's like how some people think that like Jesus actually walked on water. There's different
Yeah,
ways to interpret it.
I get what you mean, and it's also about literalism. I do concede that point, and I mean this is probably my argument. Probably is more for fundamentalists, but even without that, there's nothing in the Bible or the Quran that necessitates you eating animal products, or like killing animals. And whilst I would not agree that all religions share the same goal of conveying a message, because just about the different moral systems, Buddhism is very much so utilitarian aligned, while Christianity and Islam and Judaism are more like deontological in their like moral structures. Um, Outside of that, I believe that uh, even if you can't like convince someone, like some Christian, from going vegan, you can still use worldly arguments. Like Christians don't only care about the Bible, at least not all of them, and those who do, of course, these are not about it, but you can then address it from this literalist interpretation. But yeah, let's not hang up. Like keep on talking about this because it's more about veganism right now, and it's not about religion. So
I think it's
what I
like,
gotta say.
you're kind of bound to end up talking about it, like to a certain degree,
Yeah.
maybe. But I think we're just about ready to wrap this all up.
Yeah.
It was very nice talking to you guys.
Thank you.
You definitely made some good
Thanks.
points. Made me think, especially the whole thing about like vegans and their ways of getting people to join them. I'll definitely think about that. Who knows? Maybe I'll become vegan. All right.
Boost.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Have a
man.
good one. See you.
Have a good one.
You too. Ah,
I think that was a long one,
okay.
actually.
Yeah, that was really long, but wrong, pretty wrong.
So wrong. God.
No, I just early on I just listened in and I was like, I should come in and be like, oh, by the way, did you know I'm vegan? Like just piss them off a little.
By the way, I'm vegan. Hi, my
By the
name's
way,
vegan.
I'm vegan.
My favorite color is vegan. God.
Yeah.
I
God,
think
yeah.
I hurt their feelings because they sound Irish to me, but they're German.
Yeah.
Which I should have assumed, but they sound. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's my bad. It's when people think I sound Dutch a lot of the time or Australian.
You sound Dutch?
Apparently.
Yeah, Australian maybe, but I don't know.
It's because I'm from Essex and we say mate.
Essex.
Mate and
mate.
Babe.
Yeah, well, that's also British, right?
Yeah.
To say mate. So
yeah.
lads, mate, putting lads and salads.
Of course, that's what we do here.
Jeez, how did you get that? How did you get that idea? Seriously.
I actually stole it from one of my friends. He put it on like a restaurant wall, like as a thing, and I said, "I'm plagiarizing you." He just put it on the wall, but yeah, putting the lads and salads. I just thought it was genius.
Yeah.
And since then we've been doing it.